Hello there. We're in day 14 and we're in Genesis 29 and 30. Now, just remind us a little bit of the background quickly. God promised that Jacob, the younger brother, would have the blessing from God and from his father Isaac. And yet Jacob, as he grew up, he was a schemer, he was a manipulator, he was a deceiver, he couldn't trust God, he was a control freak, and he tricked his father into giving him the blessing that God said would be his anyway. And because he tried to do God's work his way through deceit and through manipulation, he had to run away from home. He ended up leaving home and going a long journey. And here we see him meeting his father-in-law to be, Laban. He meets Rachel at a well and he falls in love with her. And in Laban, he meets someone who is even more of a schemer, a manipulator, a deceiver than Jacob. And Laban tricks Jacob into marrying the wrong sister first. And then he has to work another 7 years in order to get the right sister. And Jacob deceives him in all sorts of ways. And when we look at this, we can think, poor Jacob, he ended up with the father-in-law from hell. But actually, this was part of God's plan to refine Jacob's heart. Because sometimes when we have an issue in our lives that God wants to deal with, he, in his grace, he puts someone in our lives who has that issue even more than us in order to expose that issue in us. And that's exactly what happened with Jacob with Laban. He ended up meeting someone that out-deceived him, that out-manipulated him, and all of that stuff. And then God's beginning to work on Jacob through Laban. Who do you have in your life who you might be thinking, I wish they weren't in my life, they're a nightmare? I wonder if God has put them there in order to refine you, in order to teach you things that he can only teach you through the suffering that comes from being shoulder to shoulder with someone that rubs you up in an interesting way. God's put someone like that in my life to teach me, to refine me, to help me to become a better person.